Welcome back. In this lecture, we will implement the logic which will actually show ads to the player based on our monetization strategy. So let's go ahead and create a new script and let's add that to our ads manager. So here, create C# script. I'm going to call this one monetization strategy. I hope I write it correctly, strategy, like so. All right. So what is our monetization strategy? Well, the monetization strategy is that I want to add a panel that will then be displaying the ads. Okay, so let's go ahead in our game UI. Let's create a new UI element, a panel, and let's call it one double money panel. Sounds pretty awesome. I would like to double my money very quickly, but that's not how it works in real life, but it will work in our game. So you see there is now a layer on top of our game, and for the purpose of optimizing it for mobile, let's go back to portrait. And as I said earlier, we are going to see later how we can move around in the map. For now, let's focus on setting up our canvas correctly and this panel as well. So I'm going to change the scale to 0.75 in terms of width and 0.5 in terms of height. So there will be this little panel here that will obstruct our view, and I'm going to change its color a tiny bit. So here, let's use whatever color you want to use, something like that. You can reduce the transparency as well, something like that. And now let's add two buttons to this panel. Okay, because one button should say something like, okay, I want to double my money, and then the ad will appear. So the rewarded video, because you only want to display the rewarded video if the player has actively decided to do so. So let's go ahead and create this button. I'm going to first create the close button, and let's pivot it towards the top right hand side. And here now, let's check out our close button and let's pivot it to the top right hand side. So here you can click in here, hold shift and the alt key at the same time and select the top right hand option here. Then the button will still stay inside of its parent, so inside of our money panel, but it will be just at the edge of it. All right, so now let's change it up a little bit. So I'm going to change its size so that it's going to be significantly larger, as it is pretty small right now. So let's use 300 times 300. That should be fine, I believe. And now let's change the text also to a big X. So here I'm going to use a font of 240 for this. So this will be the X that should trigger closing this panel. So in order to achieve this, let's go to the close button itself. Let's add a click event to it. So here, and then here you can drag in your money panel. So double money panel. And select game object set active bool. What that will do is once you click on the button, it will deactivate this game panel, so this double money panel. So let's go ahead and test it. Click on it and the money panel closes. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Now let's go ahead and add another button, and that second button will take care of doubling our money. So right click the double money panel. Let's create a new button here, and I'm going to call this one double money button. Show me the money. And then here, this one will be at 830 and 470 in terms of size. Now let's change up the text a little bit. Say something like double your money. Or maybe some, yeah, that should be fine. Double your money. With a font size of, let's say, 120. It looks good. Well, it doesn't look too good, but you can, of course, play around with fonts and colors and all of that stuff. I'm not a designer, so I wouldn't know. I'm just building the game, how it works. And then a designer can look over it and make it better. So double your money. And now, what do we want to do once we click on that button? Well, I hope you still recall what we did in the last video. We created this ads manager. So let's click here. So let's create a new on click event. Let's drag in the ads manager here and then select ads manager show double money ad. So that's the method that we set up in the last video. So here, this show double money ad, which will then show the ad that we wanted to display. And then if the player finished the ad, then this stuff should be triggered. Well, then it should check if it was that exact placement that we're looking at, and then it would double the money. All right, so now let's save this game scene and let's test it. So once we click on double your money, an ad should appear, and this shows that the ad will work on a device. Okay, the screen would be your ad unit. Everything seems to be working. So let's close that. And now our ad will disappear if we were to test this on a real device. And by the way, something that you might have noticed here is that once we click on double money and close it, this thing still is open. So our panel, our money panel, is still open. So let's deactivate that as well. So let's go on the double money button. Let's add another event. Let's drag in the double money panel and go over to game object and set active pool. So let's test it again, because doubling our money now will display the ad as well as it will close the double money panel. Perfect. So that's exactly what I wanted there. Okay, so now let's deactivate this panel because I don't want it to be there from the start. The player shouldn't see this every time that he opens the app. This would be super annoying. Instead, what we want to do is we want to take care of it in our monetization strategy. So what I want to do for now is I'm going to display this money panel once every minute. Okay, so I'm going to really exaggerate it for testing purposes. Therefore, let's first of all create a game object double money panel that we can activate or deactivate. And then let's create also a double money ad interval. In my case, I'm going to set that to 60 seconds. Okay, so usually when you would do that is potentially depending on, let's say, what the user does. So if the player would press a button where he can actually double the money manually, where he can select this functionality, then he could trigger this event. But what we're going to do is we're going to trigger it every 60 seconds. So this is just for testing purposes. Don't do that in your real game because people will deactivate it or uninstall it straight away, because this would be way too annoying. So these are the two variables that we're going to require. And now let's create an enumerator, so a coroutine that will take care of displaying the ad every 60 seconds. So here, enumerator, and I'm going to call this one double money routine, or double money ad routine, maybe even. So something like that should be good. Now, because this is an enumerator, we need to return a yield. So yield return. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to first of all make sure that we disable the money panel, and then we run a while routine that will be true all the time, which means that it will now be running all the time, which is fine for a coroutine as we've seen before. And now in here, I will wait for the double money ad interval. So I will wait for 60 seconds. And then we can check if the panel is active or not. So double money panel is not active self. So there's this property called active self, the local active state of this game object. So this is just a property here, as you can check. It's a Boolean and it only has a getter. We cannot set it, we can only get it. And this allows us to check if the panel is active or not. So we're saying if it's not active, activate it. So we're then showing it every 60 seconds. Now, of course, this double your money routine will never run because we're never calling it. So let's start a coroutine here with our money doubling method here. Okay, so let's save this monetization strategy. Let's make sure that we have it in our ads manager here. Let's drag it in there. And now we need to assign the double money panel. Okay, so let's add that double money panel in here as well to our monetization strategy. Okay, so now let's check it out. Let's play the game for a bit. And then after 60 seconds, the game should allow us to increase stuff. So by the way, I'm going to change the mode here, otherwise I cannot improve it. So I'm going to skip forward a minute. Well, you could of course for testing purposes set that to 5 seconds or so, then it's easier to test, but for now it's going to be fine. I'm just going to keep on playing the game. I pause the video until the point that it actually appears, so where the ad appears. And there we are, it appeared. And let's see if we can double our money. We closed the ad and it doubled my money. So it was at 35 before, now it's at 70. All right, so that seems to work. Okay, so that is how we can use rewarded videos. So let's check out skippable ads in the next video.